welcome to the Tavern Between Dimensions, a monthly tabletop podcast. My name is Carl Dudesh, and I shall be your bartender for your time here today. Joining me for service is the Dungeon Master for the Explorers of Elsewhere, Dan Tyree.
Hello!
And the man who invented the question mark, Anton Bain.
Apparently, yeah. True story.
Well, hi guys, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. It's good that everything's back in full swing. Yeah, now we had the Christmas break a little while back, and the episodes are running on, and it's exciting to see where we're going with that. So yeah, it's all rosy on that front.
To say, I'm quite happy that the games have come back during the Christmas break. Not having them was a strange sensation. Coming up to the days where we normally do it, and it's just like, oh yes, I've got nothing. I have absolutely nothing. was awful, but both me and my wife were really happy when the first game started up, and that's out now, and just a couple of others as well. So it's been fun going.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to tonight's session. Should be a good one. First one was out, so no pressure, guys.
None at all. Let's see if we can do it again, or whether we were just a one-hit wonder. But let's hope not. Let's hope we can. Let's hope we can repeat the magic of last time. So, firstly, we're going into BYOB. Anton, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Hello, and welcome to BYOB, where we focus on making wacky and exciting D&D character builds. Today, we are looking at clerics. So bring out your holy tome, raise your mace, and shield us from evil with these character builds. Carl, starting with you, what have you made for us?
I went for the basically brief as exact. So I started with a cleric, and I've multi-classed out of it rather than just obviously just multi-classing into cleric. I thought I'd do it the other way around. I'd start with cleric and multi-class out. I also kind of went very functional in the cleric side, but when it came to the other class which I picked, I went more fluffy because I liked the sort of visual representation that it brought. So I'm actually bringing a hybrid of another person's character. So my wife's character, Matei. In another game that we play, Matei is a Twilight cleric and a star druid. So I've basically brought, it's a really interesting mix. And the one that she's got in the other game, Twilight's built way better than what I brought to the table here. She built it so much better. And also our DM put a lot more personal fluff into it for the setting. So she has a lot more. So I couldn't bring that build as much as I would like to. So I built something similar for the game. But as I said, something very functional to start with, and then something very fluffy for the Stars Druid.
And both of those subclasses come from Tasha's, correct?
They do, yes. Both were from Tasha's, which I have had great fun looking through since I got it, and I've even added a few things into my games, and Dan even brought one or two of the elements in for our classes in the Explorers of Elsewhere game. But yeah, Tasha's has made some fantastic additions, and these two classes, or these two subclasses, are perfect examples of that.
How have you built Matei in terms of stat-wise and the rest?
So I started with the most generic of all races. I started with a human variant, mainly because I think that obviously in this world of fantasy and magic, especially in the sort of D&D sort of side, I like human characters because obviously they're so numerous and they have the ability to become everything. So I've started with a human variant.
Yeah.
And obviously I've stacked everything pretty much into wisdom and dexterity. So I've built this guy at level 5, so I don't even get to the ability score increase through it. So at the moment he's already rocking out 16 wisdom because the +1 increase obviously I got from human variant I put into wisdom, and I put the other one down to dexterity. I mean, with the initial array, I put the highest score of 15 into wisdom, then intelligence, then dex, then con, charisma, and strength. So I went down that way. Strength being actually the weakest of this one because obviously being to druid, he's not really going to be using heavy metal armor. So, strength was not a thing he needed. He's more a person of wisdom and speed. I put my points into wisdom and dex, so 16 wisdom, 14 dex.
And why did you go 12 con and 14 intelligence? Is that more for RP?
No, for the dexterity, I was trying to get that little bit of a AC bump because, again, he wouldn't be wearing any metal armor because of the rule in Druid that you can't wear anything that is metal.
Yeah, so you'd be a medium.
Yeah, so that does disqualify quite a few bits of armor unless you obviously, fluff it, as in obviously this big full plate is made of nothing but wood.
Dragon bone.
Dragon bone, yeah. Or as one of my favorite authors did, there was an entire race of people where everything was this super hardened wood. So you could go down that route, but I didn't want to keep basic. So his dexterity was boosted more than, say, his strength was, because I was looking at naturally increasing his armor rather than artificially increasing it. I mean,
Gotcha.
he does carry a shield, which also gives him that little extra oomph, which is why he has at level 5 AC 16.
Gotcha.
They built him as the idea with the background of hermit, because I imagine he was someone who spent time out in the wilds, also probably brewing health potions on the side and that sort of witch doctor-esque sort of style. And basically with that, the feat I chose with Variant Human. Now, most people would probably think it's an odd choice, but I actually gave him alert, which for
Right.
sort of two reasons. Number one, for the fluff side, he's probably very aware. He lives out in the woods alone. He probably sort of sees everything, nothing can sneak up on him. And also for that little bit of the initiative bump. So again, with that high dexterity and then with the alert bumping up further, it rocked his initiative up to 7.
So you get +5.
That's correct. With alert, you get +5 initiative and you can't be surprised at all, basically. So if there is a surprise attack, you still get to go on your turn, which you can either use for attacking, or as this guy is basically about sort of buffing and supporting, you can get those early buffs and supports out while everyone's still standing there with their mouth hanging open.
Pretty cool. And can you give us a rundown to Twilight Cleric subclass?
So yeah, the Twilight Cleric, to put bluntly, is broken. Because the first ability is ridiculous. And when this was brought up in the game that me and my wife were playing, I thought it was a typo. I went and grabbed my copy of Tasha's, sat down, I was like, no, it's wrong. What you've done is, no, you're right. They get 300 feet of dark vision.
Yeah, and that's 300 feet.
300 feet.
The standard for a PHB race is like 60.
Yeah.
Then you get Gloomstalker, which was 120, which seemed excessive as well. And now they're just putting the next limit at 300. So the next subclass is going to be 600 feet, I think.
In the game, we had a person playing an elf, and when they even sort of heard the 300, they were like, what am I even doing here? I'm useless. I can't see as far as you.
Yeah, what do my elf eyes see? Nothing.
Yeah, what do my elf eyes see? But the great thing as well is you can share this. You can touch other players within a 10 feet range up to your wisdom modifier. So my wisdom modifier is +3, which means at least 3 other people. So if we're in a party of predominantly humans, darkness doesn't matter anymore. And the great thing about this is it's either recharged on long rest, or if you've not really been using your spells, you can spend any spell slot to recharge that ability again. And it lasts for about an hour in game. So you can actually have this dark vision for a long time. And once you touch them, they don't have to stay in range. They have dark vision for an hour as well, up to 300 feet. So it's utterly broken.
So you can be quite sneaky with this if you want to.
Because you can see things before they can see you, because even most monster races in D&D don't have dark vision that good. So you can see things before they know that you're coming.
Very cool.
Which again, with that super high initiative, you are Kingmaker here. Because of the next ability, as an action, you can give anyone you touch advantage on the next initiative save. So you can go in and you'll obviously be probably rocking one of the higher initiatives. You'll be able to buff your players, and then you are choosing who is going to be your pain train, which is a great thing, especially with a high initiative. You're like, have a bless. Now go cause some damage. So the channel divinity in this one is okay. It basically creates 30 feet dim light. Allied characters within that, at the end of their turn, can choose either to gain temporary hit points equal to a d6 plus your cleric level, or if they have any charmed or frightened effects, they can choose to end those. So it's an okay one. If you're going to a particularly nasty encounter, you can just stand in the middle while your party are fighting, just keeping them topped up with this sort of buffer of health. So for that, I think that's the best part of it. And I guess if you are fighting something with fear effects, then again, this comes into play. Ideally, the only time I've seen it used, again, through my wife's version of Mate, is to just give us temp HP at the end of our turn. So we're just sort of topping our health up with these temporary hit points. It keeps us going.
That lasts like a minute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
That's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah, it's good for in combat. It is a really good ability. And as I said, I've only really built the cleric to level 3, so we don't really go into anything more with Twilight. But it's it's enough already to see that 300 feet is broken.
And that channel divinity is you're basically getting a level 1 cure wounds every round to your whole party, right?
Yeah, temporary hit points I feel kind of go overlooked a lot of the time, but if you've got a party of 5 and you're dealing out on average 6 health for free, basically every turn, there's not really a spell that you can chain cast to hand out in inverted commas 30 hit points every turn. And like, you're not going to get 30 hit points because not everyone's going to take damage, and the temp hit points will just go back up to what they can do, kind of thing. But
Basically like a free aid every turn, right?
yeah. I mean, bards love reducing damage with cutting words. If a bard reduces damage with cutting words by 6, then everyone's happy about that. But yeah, temporary hit points to all your allies, you're just doing that for everyone all the time.
It's great. And the only thing it doesn't do is if you've been knocked unconscious, obviously temporary hit points don't work in that regard. But for while your players are still alive, it is in that regard quite a good channel divinity. I take back what I said earlier then after that. The other thing as well, with Twilight, you do gain fairy fire at first level, which again, going with that high initiative, you can really put combat in your favor almost straight away. You see things coming further than anyone else. You probably go before anyone else. You decide how this fight's going to go, and that's
and then everyone gets advantage on their attack rolls.
exactly
Amazing.
So you can give someone advantage or initiative, and then if you go first, you give them advantage on all the attacks. So you are in control. And just as a little top up, as we've seen, if you've watched the Explorers of Elsewhere, you also get Moonbeam. You know, Moonbeam is always used in great Moonbeam. It's always used in great effect, especially if you're fighting shapeshifters. In that regard, for the cleric side, really good and crunchy. It's a really good supportive build. And then I went with the fluff, and I went for the Druid of Stars. One of the good things about the Druid of Stars is you do get something called the Star Map, which gives you guidance as a cantrip, but it also gives you Guiding Bolt, which you can cast not using your spell slots. You cast it from your proficiency, so you get as many casts as you have proficiency. And Guiding Bolt is a good sort of quick chuck it out spell if you have nothing really better to do, and does a sort of fair bit.
Guiding Bolt is probably one of the best first level, or the best first level damaging spell. Like,
exactly.
I think by a long mile.
I really like the spell. I think the points where I've been able to use it, I've been a bit wary of, like, you have one shot to make it work kind of thing, because it doesn't really do much if you miss, and that's a whole spell slot. But the fact you get them for free, when you start, you're getting 2 per day for free, then by all means, just chuck those out freely, because I'm pretty sure with the start, you can then choose to use spell slots on more Guiding Bolt.
Yes, you can. You get it as a spell, but you can use it up to your proficiency before burning spell slots.
Nice.
The reason that I really liked this as sort of fluffy thing is basically the wild shape. You can obviously turn into animals, as you normally do, but you actually have a new form as well called the starry form. You go luminescent and a constellation appears on you, and you get a couple of cool constellations. The one that I think, if you were to play a different type of cleric, a life cleric, the Chalice constellation works really well if you play a life cleric, because it adds 1d8 plus your wisdom to any heals that you do, and obviously life clerics also buff that a lot. But the reason I picked this is for the fluffiness of the idea of transforming into the night sky, basically turning even thinking that your animal shapes are probably animals with the constellation of what animal they are. Any creature that you may summon is probably a starry form with a constellation of whatever creature they are. And I just really enjoyed this sort of mental imagery of this guy who sits out in the woods, stares up at the night sky, and has basically become one with it. And that's where I think as many other things, it's maybe not that great in the terms of what it can do. I just picked it because I really enjoyed that crunchiness of the fluff. And again, the slight benefits of having another sort of wisdom-based joining. So the whiz spells that you get with Druid do really work well with Cleric, even though they kind of share a bit of a border.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that if you want to make it work in synergy, take this with a Life Druid. For me, I took it for the idea of this guy loves the night and has learned to become one with it. He hasn't quite become Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Not yet. I mean, that's the next progression. Maybe I'll slip into Rogue as a third multi-class, and he can become the knight. But yeah, so you have this really mechanical cleric side, and I just picked the druid for the mental imagery, which is one of the things I love most when I'm designing characters. Basically, I liked how they look in my head.
Yeah, and you get a lot of utility out of druid with the wild shape, so that's pretty cool. Really cool character.
But that is Matei.
Awesome.
We can thank my wife for that one.
Yeah, that must have been quite fun to play with.
She really enjoys it a lot. So what did you bring to the table?
Yeah, so I brought along Bruno Thunderfist, who is a Mountain Dwarf, Cleric 5, Fighter 3 multiclass. Again, once again, I do like my multi-classes, and there's a very specific reason why I've gone with this 5-3 distribution. And I've cheated a bit. I've started with Fighter at level 1, primarily because of the saving throw.
Mhm.
So if you choose Fighter as your first class, you will get proficiency in Constitution saves, which is very useful for your Cool Lightning or your Spirit Guardian spells. Keeping those up, having proficiency con is just amazing. You also get proficiency with heavy armor and martial weapons, but the Tempest subclass I took would also have that, so it's a bit less of a gain. But Fighter 1 as a cleric is always sweet. The way you can build it afterwards, you can continue going to Fighter. So at second level, you would gain Action Surge. And at third level, I've gone with Eldritch Knight. And the reason you would do that is first you gain extra spells. Also, you get extra cantrips. So this will tie into the concept of this Tempest Cleric, because one of the cantrips I've chosen is Booming Blade. So obviously that thunder damage, that kind of works with the whole theme. And in terms of the spells I would take as a Eldritch Knight, it would be Shield, Absorb Elements, and Expeditious Retreat.
Which are handy because, Eldritch Knight would be using your intelligence. So picking spells that don't require any rider on the intelligence works.
So Shield, you get +5 AC. Expeditious Retreat, you can basically dash as a bonus action. So I've only got 25 feet of movement. I'm going to need that sometime. I get that extra speed. And then Absorb Elements, just amazing. Just reduce that Dragon Breath damage into half. And on your next hit, you can add that damage back. So yeah, some really, really good spells. So all 3 levels of Fighter bring something to the table. And then afterwards, we're going into 5 levels of Cleric. So this is a level 8 build. So a bit more than you, Carl. In terms of stats, I end up with 17 Strength, 8 Dexterity, 16 Con, 10 Intelligence, 15 Wisdom, and 8 Charisma. So I didn't take ability score increase at level 4 for the Cleric. I actually went for a feat. I went for Warcaster. So advantage with Concentration save. So I have advantage on con saves and proficiency. So basically, my Core Lightning is going to stay up. But I haven't been able to increase Strength or increase Wisdom from level 1. So they're pretty much stuck the same way they are since level 1. So I'm lagging a bit behind there, but as I said, those levels of Fighter I think were worth it, even if I don't get that ASI. Now, really the concept behind this is you're going to be a melee up-close fighter wearing plate armor. And I've given him a maul, so you'll be doing 2d6 damage. And the idea is cast your Bless, or cast your Spirit Guardians, or cast your Core Lightning, so have that concentration spell up. And when you're not doing that, you've got your Booming Blade to hit people around. And there's a few interactions with Booming Blade, which I find kind of interesting. One of the features you get at first level is called Wrath of the Storm. So you can deal 2d8 lightning damage or thunder damage as a reaction when you're hit by an attack. So you've got a nice use for your reaction there. And actually, as a fighter, I took Interception Fighting Style. If an ally of mine gets hit within 5 feet of me, I can reduce the damage by 1d10 plus proficiency as my reaction. So basically, if I get hit, I use my reaction to do lightning or thunder damage. If you hit my friend, I reduce that damage. So you've always got a good use for your reaction there.
Yeah.
And I like builds where you can use your reaction. So you're involved in the fight. You're always waiting for that little opportunity. So you've got 2 uses for your reaction there on top of opportunity attacks. And then you've got the Channel Divinity, which works very well with Core Lightning and with Shatter. So basically, Channel Divinity, you don't roll dice. It just does max damage. It's done. That's it. So that's really cool. It's your shadows and your Core Lightnings really, really, really do damage.
I have such a bad relationship with Shatter, one of my other games.
Why is that?
Someone decided to open a door with Shatter and nearly sank the boat that this door was on.
Don't use this on a boat.
You know who you are if you're listening.
So yeah, you've just got a lot of flavor going on with here. This build is actually a level short of what I would like it to be. If this was level 9, it would be Cleric 6 and Fighter 3, because at level 6, I get Thunderbolt Strikes. When you deal lightning damage, your enemy is pushed 10 feet away. So what this would mean is when you use your reaction to deal lightning damage, they hit you and they get moved 10 feet away. Now, if you've just hit them with Booming Blade, they have to get back to you, which will proc the extra damage of Booming Blade. They get pushed back, they have to come back, and then they proc the Booming Blade damage. You could also do this kinda with Call Lightning. So you'd hit them with Booming Blade, then you'd Call Lightning with your action surge, and they get moved back, and that would also allow you to do that. So there's some shenanigans to be played with, but all in all, I think it's good fun, this little build.
That is some great synergy with the pushing.
I feel like you missed a trick by not taking lightning lure, because then you could grab them, reel them in 10 feet, and then no, and then push them back.
You know what? I actually forgot about Lightning Lure.
Yeah. It's a spell I forgot about it until recently. Especially if you wanted to go for the more battlefield control. Pretty sure you could pull them in as of lightning lure and then push them off in a different direction.
They would have to be 10 feet away from you for that to work.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Potentially.
push them back 10 feet.
And then you
so-
push them back.
I mean, little things like away from the bard towards the barbarian. There you go.
That wouldn't work with Booming Blade because
No.
you would hit them, run away, lightning lure, bring them close, and then they would be moved back afterwards. It's like, I mean, potentially. Look into it. Have I missed anything else from this character? Not really. I think those were the main stuff. So you just get all the good stuff from Fighter, like good temper stuff.
Yeah, I like the synergies of that one. I really enjoy that. The battlefield control for that one is fantastic.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Clerics are supposed to be up front. They really, really do not get good melee options. So the way you get around that is you go and steal those wizard cantrips, which are Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade. Otherwise, you'd be doing 1d8 plus 3 damage or something.
Yeah, you don't get extra attack with clerics as well, do you? It's
You
just
don't, which is actually, I think, is a missed opportunity. If I had to retreat Cleric, I would give them a melee option. So yeah, that's I guess that's our two multi-class Cleric builds. One Twilight Starry Cleric Druid, which was very cool. And then we've got Bruno Thunderfist, my Tempest Cleric.
Both of those builds were really cool. I think what I love about the cleric is the fact that it is so versatile, and then when you open up to multi-classes and kind of really push those ideas, because like you're picking from the same spell list, you're picking from the same class options, but those two characters are completely and utterly different in terms of their position in the party dynamic. Really fun.
Cleric is a good foundation build, I think. Or in your case, Anton, it's not quite the foundation, but it definitely is a good filling to a cake.
Yeah, definitely.
So we will try and make these builds available in due course. So if you want a lightning-based fighter cleric or the Man of Stars, hopefully they'll be able to join a game near you soon. Thanks for watching. Release segments like this from the Tavern Between Dimensions every Friday here on the Explorers of Elsewhere channel. Otherwise, if you want to listen to the episode in full, you can check us out on Spotify and Amazon Music.